What is up, everyone? It is Cheerful Conversations time. Happy Wednesday. Happy last day of February. Holy crap. Before I bring my guest co-host on, let me tell you a little bit of a story. I know I normally start my shows, or I have started my first 3 shows with the Ask April Anything bit, and we're still going to do that. But what I do with all my guests is that 30 minutes before we go live, we kind of sit and get ready for, just get ready for the show, get ourselves mentally prepped, go through all these things. I'm just realizing that I don't even have show notes in front of me, so that's going to be fun to try to put together in a little bit. But so we had a little bit of an issue, and I'll have Jon, who's my co-host, talk about it in a little bit. But he is totally winging it, and I'm super proud of him for, experiencing something that could potentially derail the show, but he still is showing up, and we are, making things work, and that's what life is all about. So stay tuned for this crazy story after we do the Cheerful Conversations intro, which starts right now. All right, here I am with my guest co-host for today, February 28th, 2018, Jon Weisberg. Jon, how are you doing?
I've been better, April. Glad to be here on the show with you.
Absolutely.
Definitely seeing that cheerful smile of yours definitely makes me happy.
Awesome. Okay, so while I actually go and pull up our show notes, because that's something that I didn't do, why don't you tell everybody what happened at like 2:20, I guess 2:20 Central, and it's 1:20 your time because you're over in Tucson. Go ahead and tell everybody what happened.
Well, just as I was getting upstairs to get ready, brought my laptop with me, and I got to stay hydrated here in the desert, and I happen to have dropped the laptop turning on right now, so definitely not a good situation at all, but luckily I have a wonderful iPhone that I was able to download Skype with and use, so
we are totally making this happen. And what's interesting too is that our theme for today's show is entrepreneurs in the trenches. This is something that Jon had decided that he wanted to talk about, being somebody who is an entrepreneur. And obviously I'm an entrepreneur too. Not even, this was definitely not something that I thought was going to be my life path, but now I've kind of embraced that world. And today we want to get super, super honest and vulnerable about, what it's like to be be an entrepreneur in the first 3 years of business. Because Jon, if you would say, like, how long have you proclaimed yourself as an entrepreneur?
True entrepreneur since August, so it's been about 6 months. Mm-hmm. But I've had a side business now for a couple of years.
Great. And I just officially hit my 3-year anniversary sometime this month. I feel like February 10th is the date that I should call it, but I was just getting the LinkedIn notifications of all the people congratulating me on my work anniversary. So maybe that's, they're just taking it based off of the month. So this is a huge milestone for me. I've talked to Jon a lot. Jon is actually one of my clients, and we'll talk a little bit about who he is and what he does in a little bit. But what's great about Jon is that, he's just starting out. I've kind of gone through a whole slew of ups and downs over the course of the last 3 years. And, it's fun being on this ride with him and just knowing that entrepreneurship is freaking hard. And
it's hard, April. It is not for the faint of heart.
For sure.
It's a journey.
But the thing is that, and we'll talk about this as we go, there are, there's a lot of risk involved. There's a lot of reward. And it really just, it's something that if you're going to embrace this lifestyle, is something that you absolutely wholeheartedly need to commit to. And not to say that you could be somebody who, is a 9-to-5er with an entrepreneur gig on the side, because that's definitely an option. And a lot of people that I work with are in that path now that are considering making the transition or just trying to figure out how to juggle both. And, Jon is one of my full-blown entrepreneur people, and we'll talk about just what his journey's been like since, and he says that he officially started entrepreneurship in August, and that's kind of when we met. So anyways, so yeah, I want to kind of start first, and we'll get into the Ask April Anything question because I haven't even mentioned it. But Jon, why don't you tell everybody what it is that you do in your business?
Well,
what you do in life.
Called A to Z Travel, where I'm a good friend, Michael, who you also know pretty well.
Mm-hmm.
And travel's always been a huge passion of mine. It's something, I fly all the time. I was in aerospace. I worked for the airlines before. I always had this entrepreneurial drive to say, okay, right now I'm working, because I worked 6 years at Boeing. And I always had this entrepreneurial drive to say, you know what? A living, I want to create something out of nothing. So I left my job in May, and I was deciding, okay, what do I want to do? I'm already running this travel blog called Weekend Jet Setters, which was kind of where we gave travel tips. We gave some recommendations on where to go, travel hacking. It was a lot of fun, but ultimately I talked to Michael and we decided, okay, A to Z Travel, we have a proven business model. We're booking group trips, cruises, tours, packages. In fact, we're actually putting on a networking cruise right now for Southern Arizona. So we are in the process of booking cabins for this awesome trip.
Awesome. Great. And so, travel is Jon's thing, and we'll definitely talk about travel throughout, but we are focusing on this idea of entrepreneurship and, the things, the highs and the lows, the struggles and the triumphs that come with entrepreneurship in both of our businesses. So wanted to talk a little bit about how we met. So, Jon, as I mentioned before, he's one of my current clients in my accountability success circle. And we met, through an event, and there's going to be some other people that are going to be on the show that I met through this event. But, there's an event called Forefront that was being held in Chicago, and we met there, and we talked a lot, virtually beforehand, and really got to know each other. He joined my pilot to test it out, and we've become, not just, we've got a business relationship, but we're also great friends, and so I appreciate having Jon, in this, and I would almost say, I don't know, Jon, if you're gonna hate me for sharing this, but I feel like, granted, he and I are working together on, his business and, balance in life and just overall happiness and productivity, but it's just amazing. So we've known each other for 6 months, right? And I feel like
fast.
It went by so fast. It still feels like, but I feel like I've seen Jon transform, and he's made a lot of pivots in his entrepreneurship journey. And I remember how this was when I started. It was crazy, and it was just so many decisions that needed to be made. But I'm more proud about who I see him becoming as a person, because I know that that's going to transfer into the business that he's building. And just the decisions that he's making are becoming more efficient. He's thinking a lot more positive. I feel like, maybe people didn't see the fact that he was freaking out when his laptop got hurt, got affected by the water. But just the fact that he was able to kind of recenter himself and be like, okay, I'm going to do this call anyways. I mean, he had this fear of maybe we should reschedule, maybe we should do this. And I'm like, let's try to figure out a way to make it happen. We've got 25 minutes. And he, is graciously still showing up. And that is a huge, huge thing that I feel all entrepreneurs need. You're going to experience hiccups. You're going to, it's not going to be 100% comfortable. But if you're able to, think on your feet, be positive and just move forward, despite how great or, successful you think it's going to look, that's what's going to be the sign of a really strong entrepreneur, at least in my book. For me, it's not all about oh my God, are you making the big bucks? Which, is something that we of course work on, but it is how you show up as a business owner and how you are as a person, because how you do one thing is how you do everything. Do you have any other comments on how we met or anything you want to say, Jon?
Well, No, you being a Chicago, I mean, I'm originally from Chicago
Oh,
also.
yes.
So the fact that April is from Chicago was a big deal. And I was actually in Chicago at a wedding when we first started talking, because I think you saw on my, because we met through the Facebook group for Forefront, and I think you saw I was from Chicago, and you're like, oh, John's from Chicago. I want to meet as many Chicago people as possible. You thinking probably that I lived in Chicago at the time.
Yeah.
So I'm like, oh, cool. This April girl reached out to me. I don't. April woman reached out to me. I didn't meet her last year at Forefront. Oh, she used to be a cheerleader. She's got this cheerful mind. Oh, I'm interested to talk to her.
Yeah.
So you've always just been a really positive person, April, and that's one thing that I really appreciate about you. And you bring that to everyone, no matter what the situation is, whether you drop water on your laptop or you're really struggling, you're really struggling trying to figure out, is entrepreneurship what I want to do? You always keep people positive, and that's one thing that I really appreciate about you.
Oh, thank you so much, Jon. Yeah. And we also have one of the other things that we have in common is that our favorite number is the same. So that's like game changer. So our number is 44. I have this like weird, like, it was my basketball number in 7th grade, and I was the most horrible basketball player ever. I think I scored 2 points in 2 years. So that's that. But 2 times 2 plus another 2 times 2 is 44. There was actually also, I think there was also like some sort of like boy drama that was tied to 44 for me, but I'm not sure if there's any significance to 44 for you.
Well, 44. So my dad was number 4, which was Bobby Orr, and he was and number 4 when I was younger, 44.
Yeah.
So I've always just had 4. 4 is my favorite number. I'm like, okay, 44, I'll keep that. And I even have and I even had one of my old email addresses, SunDevil44, because I'm an ASU Sun Devil, as my original AOL, my original Gmail screen name or whatever.
Oh my gosh, AOL! Like, I know that we're about, is that 3 years apart in age? But like,
I'm 33, so 4 years maybe.
4 years. Are you turning 34 this year?
I am turning 34 in May.
Yeah, so we're 4 years apart. Okay, no, I'm kidding.
You like April.
Thanks, even though that's a lie. Okay. But yeah, AOL, that just like makes me laugh because, when I was in high school, that was like when AOL started and just the internet. And I have this vision of like the, when you're doing the dial-up. Oh my gosh. The slowest
Old
internet
school.
ever. Yeah. But it's how times have changed. So, okay. So there's kind of how we met. One of the questions that I ask all of my guests, just so that people can get to know who you are, is what do you geek out on? And I would say you can't use travel because that has to do with your business, because I want it to be, what do you geek out on that's not work related?
So board games. Like for me, Settlers of Catan is one game that I can play all the time. In fact, I had a bunch of friends play almost every Friday night a game of Catan. Competitive. Only one in the and a half that we played, I might have won twice. So always win. She would trade, and all my friends were like, "Don't trade with her." And I'm like, "Well, one we're going to work on. One of us is going to win." But she always won, and it really upset me.
Good job,
so
Diana.
Catan is.
No, kidding.
Oh, maybe she's watching this and she'll laugh about this. But no, Settlers of Catan is one game that I could play any night.
Awesome. Yeah, I talked about board games a couple shows ago, and so yeah, I've played Catan a couple times, maybe one. My husband's played it a lot more, but yeah, super fun. Love board games. That's great. Okay, one more question for you, which is the random icebreaker question, which I pull out of my trusty little vulnerability is sexy game.
Bring it on.
Are you
ready?
Bring
it on, April.
I'm just gonna pick a random one, and you're gonna have to answer it. Okay. The question is, name 3 adjectives your friends would use to describe you. And then I will answer myself too. But I'm going to make you go first so I have more time to think. 3 adjectives your friends would use to describe you, and go.
Silly. Outgoing.
Okay. Silly, outgoing, and loyal. All right. Mine would say determined. Compassionate, and I'd probably say cheerful just because that's become a part of who I am. So
I would agree, April. I would agree with that.
Awesome. Great questions. Okay. So now let's get into the nitty gritty. And, one of the things that I always do in all my shows is people that like to ask me questions. I have a whole, slew of them. If you are watching the show and sometime down the road want to ask a question that I answer either in a newsletter or on the show, feel free to go to www.thecheerfulmind.com/AAA, and you can fill out the form and ask the question. It could be as silly or serious as you'd like to be. It could be just something that you want to know. And as long as it's relatively clean, I'll put it up on the show. So, considering the fact that this is an entrepreneurship question, I was trying to see if there were any that were related to that topic. And the question was, that somebody asked was, how do you find the courage to make a change in career? And I read this as, how do you kind of switch career paths? How do you switch from being a, 9-to-5er to an entrepreneur? How do you, this could even be like, if you had a major that just doesn't light you up, like how do you choose a different path? And I would say that for me, everybody knows that I've had, 5 or 6 different career paths in my life, and finding courage might be perceived as this thing that I don't need a lot of courage around because I just commit to doing it. But I do think that there is this piece of really making that commitment to change. And it's gonna be scary. It's going to, it might feel uncomfortable, but if it's doing something that you truly love and that you're truly passionate about, if that's important to you, because, there are some people who I know that go to a job that makes a lot of money and it gives them the opportunity to afford them all the things in life that they want to buy. And they might not like their job, but they love everything that they're doing outside of it. And more power to you if that's the case, because you know that those are your priorities. But it really comes down to what's really important to you. And for me, the reason that I changed my career so much was because work-life balance is so crucial to my being. I really want a job that's challenging, that makes me think, but I also want to be able to enjoy the fun in life. And so if I'm going to work a job that's going to be 90 hours a week or traveling a lot or just like pushing me to burnout, doesn't matter what it is that I'm doing, it's not the job for me. So it really starts with really getting to know who you are and what it is that you want. And if you can find that, with that will come the courage is what I feel. But I think it also really deals with some of these limiting beliefs and the mindset that you have around whether or not you deserve to make this career change. Because you might say like, oh, I went and got this degree in engineering and crap, like I'm not using it. I'm a failure because I'm a waste. So I'm going to just stick with engineering because I already invested all my time there. And that's a choice that you have to make, but it's really, owning the decisions that you make in life and knowing that, and if you really, really, truly are miserable, take it from me and probably take it from Jon too, because we've both left our careers behind to pursue entrepreneurship, with, not even the confidence that, things will be the way that we, we'll make the same amount of money or whatnot, but we're doing it for that freedom. We're doing it for the flexibility. We're doing it for this feeling of fulfillment, passion. So, Jon, what do you have to say about like finding courage to making a change in a career? Because I know that you did that within the last year, and I'm sure that it wasn't an easy decision.
April, it wasn't an easy decision, and for me, I was making a lot of money. I was able to travel a lot. I had a nice car, play a lot of golf, do things that I want to do, but I was just so unhappy with what I was doing. And problem is, the last job I took it for the money instead of saying, oh, I'm good at it and I enjoy it. And I should have had the courage to have left earlier, but it wasn't until my dad passed away earlier this year, and that was really an eye opener for me, saying, you know what, I lost someone, but he worked his and he didn't even have a chance to really enjoy it. So at that point, I figured, there's no reason to do something I don't afford. And entrepreneurship and running and doing travel is something that I've always been really passionate about. And I said, you know what, if ever there was a time in my life to make that change, now is the time to do it. And there's no excuse not to do it. Mm-hmm. Later, I moved to Arizona and started the company. Obviously, it's had a lot of ups and downs, but the experience I've had and have something I love and put all my effort into, it's been
great. Oh my gosh, I just opened something on accident and it messed up my screen. So sorry about that. Let me just cancel that out really quick. I do see that there are a couple people that are watching. So for those of you that are watching, I really, really appreciate it. Feel free to leave comments if you have anything to say or resonating with anything that we're saying. Obviously, we would love to know that you're here and supporting us. So exactly. So I think that, trying to recap that whole idea of, finding the courage. I do think that sometimes it takes some sort of like unfortunate event for you to take that leap. For me, it was my health issue.
I think I froze for a second.
Oh, it's okay. No, you're good. I think that, sometimes you need that like nudge over the edge to take action, because sometimes you're just so scared to do it alone. And, imagine people who either get laid off or, they lose somebody they love or, or whatever that might be. They experience their own health issues. I don't know if I would have had the courage to leave my job if, or at least even to pursue entrepreneurship if I hadn't lost like a freaking big ass ton of hair. I might have found another job in the company, or in the organization I was working for, but maybe I would still find myself like bored after a few years and not happy, where this is probably, the first job where I've been working for 3 years and I just feel like I'm starting. Like there's so much area to tap into. There's so much potential, and I'm only turning 38. I still have a long, long time. And so who knows what this can be down the road. And I'm so engaged because it's something that I care about and that I love. And it's a mission and a cause that I want to support, and just being able to help other people make that leap, it just, gives me so much pride and joy. And so, that's why it's really, really fun to be watching Jon on his journey, as well as all my other clients. So I guess the next thing that I want to talk about, Jon, is just this idea of like, what are the types of things for anybody who's watching that is considering making the leap to entrepreneurship, and knowing that what's out there, there's a lot of like, you can start your own business, which, by the way, you totally can. I firmly believe that everybody is 100% capable of starting and growing a thriving, successful business. There's definitely some things that I feel, need to be a part of that equation as part of it that I've learned along the way, and I'm going to share that. But I'd love to hear from your perspective, Jon, as somebody who has only been at it for 6 months. What are some of the things that you feel are essential to success as an entrepreneur?
I think patience is definitely one thing that, I'm sure you've seen a big difference between when we first had my patience. Mm-hmm. But yes. You got to realize also that success is not going to happen right away. If you go in thinking like, oh, I'm going to, within 6-7, 6-figure business, I'm going to have all these clients and everything's going to be rosy, then you're getting in for the wrong reason. So it's definitely not easy.
And I do think that people can make a lot of money right away. I think it's definitely possible. It's just a matter of like, what are these things ahead of time that need to be set up. But I also do think that I agree with you on the idea that, yes, you want to be an entrepreneur and you want to make money, and you can make a lot of money. But if that's the reason, I don't know. I could also argue that you could make just as much in a 9-to-5 corporate job. So it really
Right,
just
and you're
depends.
guaranteed it. Yeah, and you're guaranteed that paycheck in your with entrepreneurship. You could go months without a sale, months without a paycheck. So you really got to be financially prepared. Having a good savings. Maybe your spouse or your significant other has a full time job that they can help support you while you're growing it. So I think being prepared also and knowing, okay, now that I'm an entrepreneur, what are my finances? What is my business plan? How am I going to find and target my customers? I think that's a learning area that I went in as I could have been
Mm-hmm.
with all those. And, obviously we pivoted a few times. I mean, I was doing weekend jet setters first, and then I moved here and I have a business partner now who, because I'm a sales guy and Michael's more of the visionary, delegator, visionary and, operations guy. So I think we complement each other well. So it's definitely decide they want business partners, other people like work as a solopreneur. So I think it's definitely, if you do have a business partner, it's realizing what each other's strengths are and driving off of that.
Yeah, absolutely. So we talked about some of the elements, patience, really just to kind of communication you were talking about because of the fact that you have a business partner. Did I miss any other? I'm trying to just recap for anybody who's listening to us to make sure that they're capturing like the essence of some of these elements that you need. Did I miss anything?
Passion also. You need a real, because sometimes you're going to be working 15-hour days and it might be late on Sunday night where you get a call or you have to work on a reservation or something, or someone calls you on a trip and says, hey, I'm stuck here. I need help with the I need help with the airfare, or I don't have the right document away. You got to be prepared. You got to be around your phone. That, hey, operation. It's not like I go into the office 8 to 5, clock out, I'm home, and I'm good to go.
Yeah, absolutely. So, and Jon, you and I have been obviously talking about entrepreneurship for a really, really long time. And one of the things that I wanted to point out, in terms of trying to decide, are you going to take that leap into entrepreneurship or are you better equipped for 9-to-5? And one of the things that we had talked about a week ago is this concept of flexibility versus stability, and having, what the 9-to-5 or the full-time job gives you this sense of stability. You can predict what's going to happen. You know what you're getting in a paycheck. You've got benefits. It's a steady pace, and you're being paid to, if you're working hourly, that's one thing, but you're getting paid to do a certain amount of work in a certain amount of time. Whereas, in entrepreneurship, you have the flexibility to really create whatever it is that you want. I mean, there's so many entrepreneurs out there that do online courses and they put in maybe a number of hours or weeks or, month, however long it takes to create some sort of online course. And then they can just run with it and, just figure out different ways to market and promote it. But they've already done the work and they can move on to other projects and use that as some sort of capital. But at the same time, the time that you're using to build that product or that service, you're not getting paid for. So it really has to be embedded into the cost of whatever it is that you're charging. I mean, I can tell you that the book that I published a year ago, it cost me an arm and a leg. Potentially, I don't know if I had to estimate, but I think I was too afraid to calculate. I spent at least $15,000 to get the editors, the publicity, the being able to set up all of the things that I needed to have this product. And I've sold I'm on the verge of selling over almost 600 books, which is great, but that's not going to cover the cost. And you just have to think about all your different faucets of income and how you're going to generate that, because it's just not like you're getting paid a certain amount per month or per 2 weeks or per hour. It's a very different lifestyle, and you can go through pockets of not having any income at all if you don't set yourself up appropriately. So it's really important for you to think about those two things and identify which is important to you. You know, if you are somebody who values flexibility, maybe an entrepreneurship route is the way that you want to go. But if you really like stability, you either need to be in a position where, you know, you're working a full-time job and maybe you have a side gig, which is, you know, working on this business, or you might have a partnership with a business partner or spouse who might give you that stability so that you can kind of have that flexibility. Like, I'm definitely one of those people who has this, because I have 2 kids and I've got a family to raise and bills to pay, you know, that stability was important. And I don't think that if, you know, my husband was there to provide that stability, I don't know if I would have the confidence to break out on my own. So I think that that's really, really important for people to know, coming out of, or, you know, being an entrepreneur. So, and you just really need to know. I mean, some people can like totally live off of, you know, nothing, but other people have a certain lifestyle that they want to maintain. I definitely have my personal splurges, like, and, you know, when I switched into entrepreneurship, I was like, okay, I'm not going to get my nails done every month. Maybe I'll let it like extend through like 3 months and let them look really natty. But this is the sacrifice I'm willing to make. Whereas other times I'm like, okay, I want to pay for a gym, or I want to pay for fitness, or I want to pay for, you know, more expensive food that is healthier. Like, that's a non-negotiable. And so I need to make sure that I'm setting myself up to, you know, financially, you know, support myself amidst, you know, and not give up everything. So, all right. What else do you have to say, John? Any other comments on important elements to being an entrepreneur? Mm-hmm.
They teach you how to make online courses. So a lot of people that I've talked to,
Oh no, I lost him. Technical difficulties. Hopefully he will sign on again in a little bit, but I'm going to switch over to live until, or just me, so that, oh, there he is. Let me get him back. You there, John?
hey, sorry, I lost you. That's the problem with being on my phone. Is my laptop is, if I get a call, it call me, anyone.
Who are these people that are calling you? Shame on you.
Not as important as you, April.
No, it's good. It's good. This is how we wing it. I was like, okay, I'm going to just switch over, but you're back. So great. Okay. So you were saying that, I don't even know what you're saying now, because I'm like,
Oh, I was saying, okay, so I was saying that I was part of the community. I was part of a community. I took a course called Zero to Launch, and a lot of people who were in the course, they started online courses, and same thing where they were working full-time jobs while they were still coaching on the side, or they were doing these online courses. And once they finally started coaching a lot of people, or they sold enough courses, they said, okay,
yeah.
but a lot of people, I mean, I would definitely recommend to a lot of people doing that route where, you know, whereas you're working full time and building your business. Or what I did is, while working on my business full time, I did a couple side hustles. So I also had a part-time, you know, I also been doing a part-time job with a local chain. So there's just a lot of different ways you can make money while you're still growing your business, whether it's on a full-time or part-time basis.
For sure. And you know, you got to do what you got to do. I think at the very core of it, you need to have your basic needs met, right? And, you know, any expenses for food and shelter and all those things, as long as you can cover that. And it doesn't even matter. I mean, there are a lot of entrepreneurs who I know that I met as an entrepreneur, and I didn't even realize that they work a 9 to 5. So you can have a complete persona of being an entrepreneur, and nobody needs to know that, like, you know, and I also would encourage people to know that, like, if you're working a job at the same time as running a business, that's not a sign of weakness or a sign of failure in your business. Because I think that some people tend to think that. I I think, I mean, the fact that you're choosing to be an entrepreneur in the first place is already a success, because this is not easy. I think that for all of my friends who are entrepreneurs, or anyone who I've met, in the last few years as I've been building my business, we all saw that graphic. I wish I had a photo of it where, they say that, success seems like a straight line, but it's like actually like squigglies, like all the way, and like circles, and, goes backwards and forwards. And that's literally how entrepreneurship is. And yesterday I did an interview talking about just like money mindset and how that is in my business. And we were talking about how, even though now I've finally figured out, I've got the book, that's a source of revenue. I've got private clients, and I've got the accountability success circle. I've got these different faucets. Now I'm like, oh crap, how do I make more money? It just never ends. And, when some things start to dry out, how do you like ramp up in other places, or where do you find different sources of things that people are willing to pay for the services and products that you provide? So, really just kind of thinking about that, what the success looks like is completely defined by you. And, whatever you're doing behind the scenes, whether you choose to share that with the world or not, that's totally up to you. But whatever, expectation you have about what entrepreneurship should look like, there's not a one size fits all model for sure.
Nope. Everyone's story is different, April.
Exactly. All right. And I know that we are, this is obviously cheerful conversations, and we want to keep the conversation, in a positive light, but I also want to get real, because that's very important. And I want to talk about the biggest struggles that we might have faced as an entrepreneur. I know I've been doing it, 3 years. So does that mean that I'm like 6 times more than how long you've been in the game? But I just want to get real and talk about it, because we're already saying that it's not a walk in the park. It's not candies and rainbows 24/7. But what would you say has been your biggest struggle right now as an entrepreneur?
Financial. I would say that's got to be the big one, is, being so used to bringing in a good sized paycheck and not making much money for the first couple months, anything. Even now we're starting to grow and build up clientele, but it's really been a struggle, because I'm used to, I can travel now, and I can, get a golf membership, and I could do all these nice things that I could with a high paying job that, now, I'm actually, I'm right now staying in a room for my business partner. I'm paying very little for that room, which is a great way to bootstrap while I'm growing the business. Mm-hmm. But I would say financial, that's obviously been an inner struggle with me, saying, oh my God, how am I going to pay the bills and live out on my own? And how am I going to, and that's why I've really looked at different ways to make extra money on the side while I'm growing the business. But yeah, financially, that's a huge thing that you have to be ready for as an entrepreneur, to go along or steady income.
For sure. And I would say that my biggest struggle as an entrepreneur, me personally, I think has been me getting in my own way. I have a tendency, and Jon knows this, because when I work with my clients, I'm very transparent about my successes and my struggles, and the crazy things that I say to myself that make no sense. And, this was something that I never realized was getting in my way when I was working a 9-to-5. So really just thinking about talking to myself in a loving way, knowing that, oh my God, I've got friends who have 6-figure businesses, whatever that is, but, does that mean that I'm not successful? No, I'm working, I'm creating the business that I want my way, and that is what makes it successful. On the financial end, Jon, you were saying that that's been a struggle for you. I mean, I'm in my 3rd year of business, and I only feel like now I'm starting to, turn the tides instead of taking multiple crazy losses in my business. And I was just talking to my accountant this morning about how they're like, yep, you took another loss again in 2017. So I'm going to just be transparent about that. But I mean, I had a book that I was publishing, and it was crazy. And, what's great about, my ability to, I made some investments to try what worked because I wanted to make sure that, I could quickly figure out what that was. But, that was all a price. And it's not comfortable because I'm not the type of person that likes to spend a lot of money. But I also know that because I made those investments, I'm so much farther along than where somebody might be if they bootstrap. So one of the biggest things that one of the biggest advice pieces that I give to my clients and people that I talk to when it comes to entrepreneurship is you have two resources to grow your business. One is time and one is money. And depending on what your situation is, if you have the luxury to make investments, do it, because that's going to get you to an end result faster. But if you don't, because I know that everybody doesn't have that, then you have time. You have time to do that. And maybe, your ideal picture is somewhere in between, where some of it you outsource and you make investments, and other times you do things on your own. Like this year, I'm very much like, okay, I've done certain things. I've learned a lot about marketing and about like different processes. And I'm using that now in the work that I do, even though I paid somebody else to do it to start. So you're learning things as you're making investments. But whatever that mix, again, however much you spend on your business or how much time you put in your business does not indicate, isn't going to label how successful your business is meant to be. So just wanted to throw that out there.
Right. The other thing, April, I would say is self-doubt.
Yeah.
Talk to you late at night saying, oh my God, am I making the right decision? Or I'm not online right now with my business partner, or am I doing the right thing? Do I need to go back to a full-time job? So you definitely have that self-doubt when you're starting off.
For sure.
Right thing. And, we've made a couple pivots right now with the business. So chances are whatever you're doing the first time is not going to be what you'll eventually be doing. It's going to change multiple times.
Exactly. I totally agree. And the one last thing in terms of like struggles as an entrepreneur, and I think that this is where I come into play, and this is just, I observe this because this is the type of people I attract. But being an entrepreneur, you really struggle with time management sometimes. When you're going to a 9-to-5 job, you get up, get ready, go to work, and then come home. And then you go to bed and get ready for the next day and do it all over again. When you're an entrepreneur, you have to be super diligent about what you're going to do. So I could easily just be like, I just feel like not working today. There's that show that I need to watch. Oh, you get distracted, and then, 5 hours goes by and you're like, holy crap, I could have worked all day. You have to be super focused and determined to continue pushing forward, because there's going to be things like bright, shiny objects, your own self-doubt, all of those things that get in the way. And so how do you hold yourself accountable to making forward progress as an entrepreneur if you can't do it by yourself? And that just kind of comes back to this whole idea of like, don't do it alone. Like, you need an outside source to call yourself out when you're not making progress, and to give you that added perspective that you might not see on your own. That's going to definitely impact your productivity. So, yeah.
Completely agree.
Awesome. All right. So we're going to switch into the next fun segment that I do in every call. This may or may not have entrepreneurship ties to it, but it's just a way of promoting and pushing positive news, positive conversations. And I ask all of my guests to, research an article that they found that was more of positive nature, and not like, oh my God, what's going on in politics, and oh my gosh, fire in the, or natural disasters or whatnot. Something that's positive to look at. And so, Jon, what did you find that was positive news in the last couple weeks?
Well, the interesting thing, April, is it's positive news that was taken out of a negative. Okay. So we all know about the shooting that took place in Florida, in South Florida a couple of weeks ago. Obviously, that was a big tragedy. It was really eye-opening for a lot of people. I'm not going to get too political, but obviously dealing with gun control and how it's affecting these school shootings. A lot of high school students banded together and they said, you know what, we're sick and tired of feeling unsafe in our school systems. We want a way to make sure that we could learn, we could go to school without any, like, oh my God, be locked in and their school that comes up. So anyways, they are I don't remember the exact date, but I know there was an article that showed in March, I think middle of March, it's going to be, all the students are going to be protesting. They're going to be, a lot of them are going to be going to Washington, D.C. to make these changes to the House and to the government. We don't feel safe. We want there to be change. And I think it's amazing just that these students are taking it upon themselves to make a positive change. And, it will help out for future generations of children going to school.
Absolutely. I agree. And I mean, just the courage that it takes for a child, a non-adult to say, like, this is something that I'm standing for and being super passionate about it. Like, I love that. I love that this is becoming, and maybe, hopefully people will listen, because clearly, like, as adults, there's not enough progress. There's been so many shootings, so much violence, and it's not okay. And, I think that they were also talking about how, like, the importance of, like, mental health and whatnot, which is something that I'm super passionate about. Definitely something that I don't think that I got enough of when I was growing up, and so making sure that becomes more of a priority as well. So, yeah, great news story.
Right, and for me, it definitely hit home for me because I have family in South Florida. My brother and his family they're basically in the community right next to where the shooting happened, and my nephew is in high school, and he went to a high school 10 miles away. So it just really, for me, my nephew, it was a big impact.
For sure. Ugh, it's just crazy. And then, like, I'm thinking, like, oh my gosh, like, I have kids in school. They could, something could be happening, and I might not even know about it. And so, it's very important for our children to be safe.
Exactly.
All right. So I was kind of scouring some positive news, trying to figure out. I tried a little bit to be more on the vein of social entrepreneurship, because we were talking about entrepreneurship. And there was an article that I found about how the media, which maybe I have this, like, vendetta again or something like that, just because everything that drives what they share is based on ratings, right? And is that an accurate picture of, like, what's happening in the real world? And, are they showing, like, the heavy hitting stuff? Which sometimes they do, but sometimes mainstream media might only cover some of the grassroots movements and different things that are happening in our world to make the world better if it helps them with ratings. So, this article that I had, they were sharing 3 interviews with 3 social entrepreneurs who are, using their business to improve the world, which I think is amazing. And so I'm just going to really quickly talk about these 3 that they interviewed. One was this oral care company called Woo Bamboo, which is it takes a stab at making more eco-friendly toothbrushes, because most of them are just plastic, right? And so trying to have something that's a little bit better for the environment, which I just think it's such a subtle thing. But it's so cool that's helping the environment. There was another one that I think it's called, like, Waiakia, and I'll put these all in the show notes. A volcanic bottled water company that gives another eco-friendly, healthy, and charitable way. And it's like alkaline water filtered through lava rock, which gives you these minerals and electrolytes. Like, cool. And it's over 2% of the company's revenue goes to nonprofit partners in Africa.
I want to try that.
I know. We should go buy some. Okay, and then there's the third one was BioQuark, which is a medical biotech company that their mission is to use a combination of biologics to repair tissues and regenerate organs, which could potentially be, something that can, further our our technological advances in medicine, which I just think is cool. So I have definitely been thinking about like what can the Cheerful Mind do to become more of like a social entrepreneurship brand, and that's definitely something in my long-term plan. But I just love this, like people who are creating businesses that are actually doing good in the world. So that's my positive news story.
I love it, April.
Yay. All right, and let's see how much we've got, about 9 minutes, and one of the last things that we wanted to share, since I know that Jon geeks out about travel, and he and I think that that's one of the things that bonds us together, because I love to travel too. I'm going to Breckenridge this weekend with my family for our second and final big ski trip of the year. And we were just talking about, how could we end this show in a fun way? So I am going to pull we're going to do a really quick camera roll segment with me and Jon right now, and we're going to share some photos from some of our favorite vacations. So we're going to kind of go back and forth. Give me a second to just share my screen. But what I love about this is that, both of us are pretty well-traveled, and I'm sure there's some fun stories to tell. Where is this? I'm going to start, Jon, with a photo of you. But yeah, I think that what vacations and breaks give to me is this outlet of fun, right? And, the world is so big. Like, I'm usually always in my little bubble here in my office or at my house or in Northbrook, Illinois. And it's just great to venture out and see different cultures, different people, just have different experiences, because that, to me, is what life is all about, is to be able to have these rich experiences that you can call on and become this amazing storyteller. I'm sure I'm going to be like the old, 85-year-old, be like, that time that I went to the Philippines, and they're just going to be rich stories that really paint a picture of the life that I've led. So, all right, let me share this screen right now. Okay, where are you? Let me see if I gotta, it's kind of hard for me to see what my screen looks like when I've got this thing going, but okay, I think I've got it. Okay, so Jon, the first picture that I have, because I know that you can't see the screen, and maybe people can see you, but they can't necessarily see me. Here's a photo of you on what looks like a bridge, and you're wearing like a poncho, and I think in Vancouver, right? So tell me, when was that?
That was January of, a little over a year ago, January 2017. And yes, one of my favorite cities, Vancouver, BC. And we were at the Capistrano Bridge, and it was, so luckily it wasn't snowing, but it was downpouring, and luckily they had the state bridges in about 300 or 400 feet over the forest there, and wow. I said, Dan, the bridge, I'm going to share that on Weekend Jet Setters, which was my other blog.
Awesome.
We had a blast there and had some really good food. Went up to the mountain, did the bridge. It was a lot of fun. Awesome.
Okay, so I'm going to show you my first picture, which is, I actually don't know where I am. I think I was in Tahoe. It's skiing. I've got my hair in little pigtail braids. I think this was, I don't know if our kids were born yet, but this is one of the first times that I went skiing. I went with my husband and his brother, and we just, I think it was the first time in a long time that I had been skiing. But did I have kids already? I am not sure. It is possible that I did not. I'm not sure. But it's a long time ago. All right. So, but yeah, absolutely love skiing. Okay, Jon, your next one looks like a photo from Cozumel with 2 kiddos in the back.
Yep, those aren't my kids, although I do love them dearly. My mom, my brother's family, we did a big family to Western Caribbean. So Cozumel was one of the stops we made, and this is right before we went snorkeling. So awesome. There was a really cool, I don't know what you call it, like a little wagon or something there with a Cozumel symbol, and had to get a good picture with my niece and nephew.
Awesome. Great. My next photo, to add some family, this was a trip to Mackinac Island. It's like a little montage. We went to Michigan to visit a family, and so a whole bunch of us were there. And I think most of the pictures are from Mackinac. Like my son, which you can kind of see in the bottom right picture, he lost his tooth, and it's like his nasty gums are like just. We're at a restaurant, and it was fun. But we did a boat tour, we did biking, and then we toured the island, which was super fun. All right, your next one looks like Tower Bridge. Is that what it's called in London?
The London Tower. Yep, the London Tower.
A London Tower.
Great. October 2015, I was on a work trip to Belgium, and I had a few I've never been to London before, so I did a few days before and met up with my friend Debbie and G's and Blake. And after I landed, so I was so jet lagged, but I had a tour, and that was one of my favorite pictures in front of the tower.
Great. Awesome. My next photo. So this is interesting. I took this photo, I think, in 2016. I went to Hawaii with my family, and this beach park is called Waimea Bay, and we were on Oahu. That's the name of the big island, right? No, the main island, right?
Hawaii's a big island.
Okay, but it wasn't the big island. It was the one where Honolulu is and all that stuff. But this photo is basically me revisiting the place where I got engaged in 2005. So it was almost 11 years later, and I just wanted to just be on the beach. So I took a little selfie when I was there. I was trying to look for the photo of when I actually got engaged, but the picture was just so grainy. I was like, for another time. Okay. Picture number 4 is you're wearing LA Dodger hats. Looks like you're in LA.
That is correct, April. So that was June of 2015. I was with my good friend Graham, and we both love making trips out to California. In fact, he's living there now.
Awesome.
But this was right outside of Dodger Stadium before we went to a Dodgers game, and couldn't beat that picture with downtown LA in the backdrop.
Awesome. Great. And so I decided to pull a photo of me and one of my friends, Alana, who we had gone on a series of fun girls trips, 2 to Vegas, 1 to Miami. This one was our last trip together in Miami. You can't really see the background at all, but we were hitting up the beach, getting some sun, and we're actually reviving the girls trips and coming out to Scottsdale in June. So I'm excited to see you when we come visit. And then finally, the very last picture, and we only have 2 minutes, so we gotta scroll through these quick. But this looks like Forefront, where we got to meet.
Yeah, to meet you for the first time. I got to go. Had a blast there.
And I was so tired in this photo. And if anybody's wondering, the guy whose head's on a stick is Jonathan, one of my other clients, who actually sold me his ticket. And he couldn't make it, and so I tried to bring him along with me for the ride, because I know that he really wanted to be there. So, hi, Jonathan. And then finally, my last picture is one of my work/vacation trips, and this is a action photo at World Domination Summit in 2016 when we were doing this thing where we were. It was like a scavenger hunt around Portland. Super, super fun. But anyways, okay, let me switch back to this because we gotta start to say goodbye, everyone. I know it went by so super fast, but oh, that's funny. My thing says we've only been on for 58 minutes, so I'm gonna keep on going for another minute. But Jon, thank you so much for being here and being vulnerable and talking about entrepreneurship. Passing through this craziness, and I hope your computer dries up and starts working again. But it's been really, really great. This has been a wonderful, cheerful conversation, and I'm sure that I'll talk to you in the next hour after and get back to work on other stuff. But thank you so much for being here.
No, thank you so much for having me, April. It was nice to share my story and how the last 6 months, all the ups and downs of being an entrepreneur. I love it, but at times I'm like, why am I not working?
And if you were not complaining about something or struggling about anything with entrepreneurship, then something would probably be wrong.
Right.
So,
you're not doing it right then.
All right. So to end with a quote, whatever good we give out completes the circle and comes back to us. I love it. Take that quote with you and have a great next couple weeks, everyone. This is Cheerful Conversations episode 4. Stay tuned for episode 5, which will be on March 14th, Pi Day. So with Deb Seymour. So if you like what you watched today, please, like the video on Facebook or on YouTube. Comment, give us your feedback, give us any takeaways, and we'll talk to you soon. All right. Bye, everyone.
Bye.